Oh boy. Welcome to our first ever members only program here on the DK Pittsburgh Sports YouTube channel. If you are a member, we are grateful to you. We are grateful for being able to do this show. If you are not a member, then you are not watching this, and I'm literally talking to nobody. See how this works? The Steelers drafted Derek Harmon, defensive tackle out of Oregon, with the number 21 overall pick. The Steelers sounded very, very happy when they came into the room. I was over there on the south side covering that. There was a strong sense. How do I put this? I have seen those guys. I have seen Mike Tomlin and whoever the GM happens to be, whether it was Kevin Colbert in the past or Omar Khan now, come into that room bouncing around, big old smiles and everything else. And that really wasn't the case this time. And I was wondering, what the heck's going on? What is this all about? So at one point, I asked Omar, when pick 21 came, was there any deliberation? Was there any hesitancy? He came back emphatically. No. In fact, he said, we knew from a couple picks earlier who we were going to take. That's how determined they were. That's why they didn't use up much of their time that's allotted on the clock. There was some conversation with moving back and whatever else, but they got their guy, and they got their guy at their position. They had only hinted at such stuff before. But when you go back to something that Tomlin said, he said when he was asked about it being important to have it on the defensive side, have it be a guy who's on the defensive line, he said extremely was the terminology that he used. See, because now he could say it because the pick was over and done. I'm going to be joined here by Chris Halleck, who's still over on the south side. I came back to try to set up this show for you here. We're in for a long night of writing and recording and all kinds of stuff here. But I want to get one thing clear before Chris comes on, because this is going to be a waste of his time to hear this all over again. There's a difference between coming on here and listening to us because we're in the building and we're reporting to you. We're not making stuff up. We're not sitting in somebody's basement, and we're not national writers. All national writers means is you're not here. You're not covering the team. You're not in on certain information. We told you guys, you members of this DK Pittsburgh Sports YouTube channel, repeatedly and emphatically and without any hesitancy, that they would not be taking a quarterback in this first round. I want you to remember this night, because all you saw here was the gap in reporting between people who do not cover the team. They might have, big famous names because they're on this network or that network, and the people who do cover the team. The Steelers were never going to take a quarterback. There was no surprise in this. There is no Shedeur Sanders drama or any of that stuff, okay? They were not going to take a quarterback. We've been telling you this for days. Now, on that note, I am joined by Chris Halleck, presuming he can hear me.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, actually.
Okay, cool.
Loud and clear. I was just sharing with everybody for only the millionth time this week that they weren't going to take a quarterback. Isn't it fun? I know, Chris, but it's at the same time, when we're looking at social media, because you have to do, they have to keep up with stuff that's happening elsewhere. Yeah. Including, we're going to get to the Chargers draft pick, believe you me, okay? looking at some of that stuff and seeing people say, surprise, everyone thought the Steelers were going to take a quarterback. No, you didn't think that if you were paying attention to people who actually cover the team.
Yeah, the process has been pretty clear this entire time. It's been evident to me ever since being at the Senior Bowl and talking with people that defensive line has been the priority And that's not anything that's being made up. That's not anything. Well, the Ravens rushed for 299 yards against them in the playoffs, and so they want to, like, yeah, that might have been a kick in the pants or whatever. But the fact of the matter is that this, under Omar Khan and Andy Weidel, like, they want to build up the trenches. They want to be able to dominate both on the offensive line and the defensive line. This has been a focus from the very beginning. I think they did all the homework that they needed to do on the quarterbacks just to do the homework and make sure that they turned over every stone that they possibly could. But everything that we have been hearing for this entire time has been defensive line's been the priority, and that's exactly what happened tonight because Sanders was there and they didn't take him.
Well, Sanders wasn't the only one there. One of the things that you and I were talking about in that media room as the draft was unfolding, as you got to about the middle part of the first round, you realized that a lot of guys were going to be there.
A lot.
Maybe the one area where I left that facility tonight feeling a little unfulfilled from an information standpoint was this really their guy? Meaning from the defensive tackle standpoint. Do you follow me on this? In other words, would they have preferred that Kenneth
just
Grant,
talking with Andy Weidel just then.
would they have, well, hell, you could just turn around and ask Andy, would they have preferred to take Kenneth Grant if he had fallen? They're never going to tell us that, by the way, in a million years. No. Andy could have. What are we doing here? This would have been the ultimate members only content.
It would have, but I didn't want to. He looked like he was. There are 2 more days of this to go.
This is his baby.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there are 2 more days of this to go, and I'm sure he wants all the sleep he can get tonight.
Yeah. So anyway, is it possible, you think, that, and we can only speculate on this, they're not going to tell us this ever, but that they were going to say, all right, listen, here's Grant, here's Harmon, here's a couple other guys, we're going to take a DT. And that maybe, because where did Grant end up going? Giants?
13 to the Dolphins.
He went to the Dolphins.
Yep. So,
is it possible that maybe they had their sights set on one of the two? It is possible, based on the answer I think Omar gave me, which was that we knew it was going to be Harmon for at least a couple of picks.
Yeah. Now, heading into the draft, and I think I even put this in my draft, everything you need to know kind of setup or preview, whatever you want to call it, that of all the defensive tackles in the class, I do believe that Harmon was the one they liked the most. Now, you'd like to hear that. Yeah, you like to hear that hindsight, but I was saying that as recent, like yesterday even. But yeah, that just what I was being told, and of course they're not going to tip their hand and everything like that. But when you have conversations, you find ways to get the answers you're looking for, and there was a lot to like, and that's the reason why I asked about the intangible stuff, because it's not just because you can fall in love with the traits, the size, the height, the length. He's got really long arms, more over 34 inches, so he's got long arms. There's a lot of physical stuff to like, but it was the intangible stuff that I wanted to ask about because, and they gave the answer that the intangible stuff is just as attractive as the tangible stuff, and so. Yeah, this is the guy that they've liked for a while, and I knew that kind of went back to the combine as well.
Well, what you have in the current setting, and we were trying in some of the questions afterward to get a feel mostly from Mike Tomlin, since he's the one that is going to have to put these players out onto the field. What happens now with this defensive line? Where exactly does Harmon fit? Where does Keanu Benton fit? Where Cam fits. They ain't moving Cam. Okay. Yeah. That's the way that goes, right? But when you think about the technique that Harmon has, when you think about the style that he plays, he's more of a get-to-the-backfield guy. Guess who else is more of a get-to-the-backfield guy? That would be Keanu. And at the same time, you not only want, but you need for these other two guys, about Cam, so I'm leaving him out, to be able to stop the run. Now, earlier this week, Cam Hayward did put on his Instagram Live that he would love to see Harmon come to the team. Now, Tomlin kind of laughed that off, like, he's not a GM. He can say whatever he wants. He's interested, but that wasn't a factor. But if Cam sees it, and we all know how Cam feels about Keanu, they've got to see a fit here, Chris. They've got to see something Even though, again, I tried too. I tried to get an answer out of them on that front. It really just failed.
Yeah, I think right now what you really have to worry about is you have to the draft is not a time where you begin to figure out the depth chart. You identify a need. They obviously identified the trenches or the defensive line being a need, and then you just acquire the best players you can and figure it out on the fields in Latrobe. Figure it out on the practice fields once you get out of training camp, obviously, and start practicing here on the south side. You figure out that you just acquire talent and then you figure it out later. You'd rather have too many good players than not enough. And that's exactly what this pick does. It gives them the flexibility and the depth to be able to figure out what to do with Derek Harmon, what to do with Keanu Benton. I do think Keanu Benton still plays a role in this defense and on this defensive line. They wouldn't have spent a second-round pick.
Yeah.
So right now the draft is all about, we're not going to make a pick to set the depth chart up. We're just going to get the best players we can, and then we'll figure it out from there.
And it's worth noting here, and in response to Aiden's question below, he says, so no nose tackle? No. That one Tomlin answered about as emphatically as you can about 15 minutes after drafting somebody. He said that is not in Harmon's wheelhouse. We don't see him in that capacity. So that tells me Keanu's not moving. Okay? I don't know how much clearer that can be, regardless of what kind of nose tackle you envision Keanu as being, or what he's been, or what you hope he'll become. He's not moving. If they're going to go with 3 down linemen out there, those are going to be the 3. But if they go with 2, which they do a lot, then you're looking at Harmon. And then are you looking at Harmon as a Stephon Tuitt type? Are you looking at him as the game wrecker type? He has the size, obviously, 6'5", 310. Are you kidding me?
And then he also ran a 4.95 40, so he can move.
That's absurd.
And he's got really long arms. He's got the great length. I mean, again, the physical traits are phenomenal. And to hear the way, we can get into this a little bit, to hear the way he talked about his mom and everything like that, it just sounds like a really stand-up guy too.
We'll do the personal stuff for sure here.
Yeah.
Snake Guy says, I was getting worried after both Walter Nolan and Kenneth Grant went earlier. I'm not going to lie. So was I.
Yeah.
No, one thing, but when Grant went, I got to tell you, there's a part of me that kind of went, on the other hand, I saw Marion Hampton falling.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and he was
I got a little excited about that.
He was there. I mean, they could have taken him. I mean, I think if Harmon would have gone in that top 20 and Hampton's still there, there's a really good chance of Marion Hampton to be a Steeler right now. But I mean,
who took Marion Hampton? Chris Halleck. Who ended up taking him, by the way?
The Los Angeles Chargers, who just signed Najee Harris.
The Los Angeles Chargers, who told Najee what they think of him tonight after Najee stood there in that press conference and told all these disinterested Southern California reporters bad stuff about the Steelers facilities. Man, karma's a female dog, man.
Yeah, it really is.
Our good friend, the Butthole, who never stops getting a laugh out of Chris on that front, says, is it not the best fit for Harmon to learn from Cam? Harmon addressed that. Harmon actually said, he described it to us as being a privilege that he can work with Cam, that he can learn from him. He said it was one of the first thoughts that crossed his mind upon getting the call from Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I remember back at the Combine, and this stuck out to me pretty well, and I even specifically mentioned it when I asked him about it tonight. At the Combine, he talked about, of course, a lot of these players are asked, like, which players do you model your game after and everything like that. And and Desiree says ready to lead the league and batted down passes. Harmon can do that
we
too.
Lost Chris's audio there for a second. So, there he is.
There's the man right there.
There he is. What's up, Omar? See, there again, another opportunity lost.
Yeah. He did. He got a cameo.
$50 for a cameo.
But
what's he saying? We want information here. What's he saying?
He's long gone. He's long gone.
All right. As long as he walked through when we were poking at Najee.
Yeah, no, but back at the combine, I remember him talking about specifically about Cam Hayward and how he's like every time I want to learn or want to watch stuff on run defense, I'm turning on Cam Hayward tape, and yeah, he talked about wanting to be a pup and learn from him, and say he's going to be he's going to be my vet and everything like that, and he obviously models his game after Cam Hayward, and they're built very similarly too, like almost the same height. I mean, I understand Cam Hayward when he's coming out of college was listed at like 285 or something like that. He's a lot heavier than that now. He's well north of 300.
Yeah.
So they're similar size, long arms. I mean, can you imagine Cam Hayward teaching him to do that long arm that he does, the one arm just where he holds the offense? I mean, you can have now two guys essentially do that on the defense.
It's
not going to say
pass
that he's going to
defense.
turn into Cam Hayward, but
No. It's a pass defense weapon unto itself. The PEF points out that, by the way, this is the benefit of being a member. We get the cameo from the Steelers GM as he happens to pass through. It's hey, Omar.
Yeah.
We could do that could be like the Hey Moan segment of this program, right? Hey,
Yeah.
Omar, who you taking tomorrow? Well, only for members, he would say. Make sure you go to dkps.net /join. Joshua Lorenz says DK Pittsburgh Sports for the win. Adam Schefter, who Mel Kiper. It's not that. It's just they do different jobs. They don't cover teams. They talk to agents. They don't cover teams. You guys just watched the assistant GM and the GM pass through the room and say hi. That's what we're doing every day. It's just a different job.
Yep.
Now, on the other hand, if you asked me or Chris what the agent for so-and-so, the Green Bay Packers or the Atlanta Falcons has to say, we're not going to have any clue any more than they have a clue about the Steelers compared to us. Alex Flores says, is there any good changes, any good chance, I'm sure he meant to say tomorrow, that the Steelers jump back into the second round? That's not going to be easy, Chris, is it?
It's not. I know that they would really, really love to get back into day two. I know that for a fact. It's just really difficult. And now that they didn't trade back in the first round, you're pretty much going to have to give up future assets to get back into the second round. Even to try to get a second, third round pick, you're going to have to probably give up something to get that. Day two is the sweet spot of this draft. Like I said, I think they'd really, really like to do it. I think Omar and Andy and all those guys have a plan to try, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen. They might just end up waiting until 83 to pick. We'll see. But second round seems really, really difficult right now that they've used their first round pick.
I have no idea what Mr. Creeps is referring to. Mel Kiper had some kind of meltdown, apparently. I have no idea what that's about.
I've been busy working.
Yeah, and we didn't have, there's no audio or whatever. We had a silent monitor on, and even that, the TV broadcast is like 7 hours behind what's actually happening. It's really kind of weird here. Cody says, we've seen Andy Weidel. We've seen Omar Khan. We just haven't seen Roman Wilson yet on the show.
I don't think he's going to be here.
This, to me, confirms that he does not, in fact, exist.
I don't think Roman Wilson was in the meetings tonight.
Guys, we have had so much caffeine, and there's still so much to do tonight. And then somebody asked this earlier, Chris. I got this one just for you. You ready? Kevin Herzog says, I hope you have tomorrow off.
Yeah, no. There's rounds 2 and 3 tomorrow night. Like I said, after I'm done up here, I'm going home. I'm turning on the Derek Harmon film and putting together a talk video.
We are writing. There's a lot of stuff to do. Now, one of the things that we're going to be writing about tonight, specifically, Chris, this is the way we've split this up. I'm going to be doing a lot of the football stuff, and he's going to be doing the personal stuff. Guys, I've been in a lot of these sessions, and when we were all huddled around this starfish-looking conference call thing that Micaiah from the Steelers brought in and set on a table for us to speak with Derek Harmon, none of us expected this conversation. He broke up. He was talking about his mom. His mom was in the hospital, like tonight, in the Detroit area. She has had, per his recollection, 7 or 8 brain surgeries. Now, I don't know that that's what she's doing there now, but he's like, as soon as I get off the phone with you guys, I'm going to go there. Guess what? We got him off the phone in a hurry. That's not one of those interviews where you want to start
No.
You're like, kid, just go, man, just
Yeah.
go. But
Yep.
he broke up a couple of times.
Yep.
And I can only imagine when you see the stuff, hear and read the stuff, and we're going to be doing a lot of that in the coming days about the relationship between him and his mom and what she's been through and the way she has supported him. He used the word several times, relentless was the way he described her. He said, if she can get up and do this, if she can get up and fight this battle every day, what am I doing? I'm playing football. Okay.
Yeah.
He is built by his mom and he plays for his mom.
Yeah. It's, I think, just doing through some of the digging, he said that, making the decision to transfer from Michigan State to Oregon was one of the hardest decisions he's ever had to make because, Michigan State is right in his backyard.
Close.
Yeah. Michigan State's right in his backyard. Oregon is 2,000 miles away. And, knowing what his mom was going through because she suffered a stroke when he was a freshman at Michigan State, that's not an easy decision. Your mom's in not in good shape, but you have an opportunity to, possibly really elevate your to do everything you can to elevate your draft stock, to give yourself the best chance to not just get drafted, but to get drafted high and to become an NFL player. And the move to Oregon obviously worked because he, turned himself into a first round pick by doing that. And so his mom supported him through that. And again, I just hearing the way he talked about her, it was definitely, everybody, as soon as he mentioned it, like, I think everybody was just like, get off the phone. like, just like, we'll talk to you tomorrow. Get off the phone. Go see your mom.
Yeah. Cat Manada is saying that there are reports that his mother's on life support. We don't, unless we have something confirmed like that, we're not going to be able to say anything to that effect. He did? Okay.
He said she was on life support.
Some of that was hard to pick up. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, he said that he was going there and he was going to say to his mom, your son got drafted. I said near the beginning of this live show, and if you guys have been with me from the outset, you might recall that I referenced Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan coming into this room, not exactly leaping for joy. Okay. And I was like, what is that all about? Now it all kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. When Harmon himself, the kid, said to us, what was his reaction to getting the call? His first word, followed by a long pause, was bittersweet.
Yeah.
Because of all of this. So normally, it's get the kid to Pittsburgh. And I know Tomlin said that to him on the recording of the phone call. Take care of business, kid. We don't need you. They don't need you.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that has to happen up there, we'll see how all this plays out. But yeah, we're seeing a lot of kind wishes here from our community, as it relates to the mom and to the kid. But I will say this: I'm a softie, okay, in general in life, and I have always had a special respect for guys who can let out a good little cry.
Yeah.
Okay? Not all guys can. There's some guy. Okay. And you show me a kid, and I understand this is an extreme circumstance, but you show me a kid that can get emotional like that at a time like this, and you saw him breaking down when he first got the call from Tomlin, the way his head collapsed there, between his knees there on the couch, surrounded by his family. And I'm not sure who that was exactly to his right, but she's holding up some kind of FaceTime image. Maybe it was to the mom. I don't know. But, that's where, yeah, I'm into emotions when it comes to football. Okay. I want people who show who they are. And I understand not everybody's like that. Okay. You can have a guy like David DeCastro who looks like he's ice cold, but then when it came time to butting heads with Vontaze Burfict, like a ram, not a Los Angeles Ram, an actual bleeping ram.
Yeah.
He did that. So if the Steelers are welcoming someone like this, who's a quality human being, into their family, that's a hell of a nice start. Okay. It is. We'll talk about his football stuff. We've got years to talk about his football stuff. But I feel like the young man showed us something about himself, Chris.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that's why, not saying that they're all, well, that's the story tonight, but it kind of is, because again, throughout this entire draft process, we're looking at strengths and weaknesses and height and weight and arm length, and we're looking at all the traits and even some of the not on the field stuff, but when you hear about like the high football IQ. Yeah, I mean, and Garrett there says right on DK showing vulnerabilities and strength, and yeah, it is. I mean, hearing him talk about that stuff is it really just goes to show you the type of person he is.
I love this from Daniel. He just says, in an awkward transition, how do we get to a second round pick? There wasn't going to be a good one there, Daniel. And you know what? No. We just passed it off to you. How do the Steelers? What's it going to take, Chris, for them to move into the second round, or are they in a position? Let's get to let's get to the third round, because if they say, listen, how many running backs were taken in this first round? Just the two that everybody knew would go?
Yeah.
Was it Genty and Hampton, and that's it?
I believe so. I still have yet to look and see who with the rest of the picks. I only saw a few of them. I've been obviously.
Yeah, we did. We all did. As soon as the Steelers make their pick, we don't even acknowledge whatever happens after that. But
yeah,
well, how do they get it? I don't know that they need to get it, but I will say this. I will say this. When it comes to the quarterback position, I don't know that you are going to get one who'd be worth a damn after the third round. Okay. Now, Chris and I have not even had time. This is a live show to start digging through who all the quarterbacks are and how many are out there, and who would you even want to take. But I can tell you this, a lot of the guys, as in almost all of them, who we had talked about as potential move up, get this guy, get him at 21. Quarterbacks are all still out there.
Mm-hmm.
They're all still available. So don't omit quarterback, and don't rule out that the Steelers could say, hey, we really like this guy or that guy, Jackson Dart, Will Howard, whoever. It's not going to be Sanders.
Jackson Dart's gone. The Giants traded up to get him.
They did? Okay, yeah. Okay. So whoever it is that's there, like, for example, our friend Baylor says the old guy's still there, DK, that, of course, being Tyler Shuck, who is old for a draft. Okay, I don't apologize for that.
Yeah. Now they're getting back. Okay, again, when we look at day 2, rounds 2 and 3, getting back into the second round, I find it very, very hard to believe that they're actually going to be able to do it. Getting a second, third round pick is more feasible, but I think you're going to have to give up multiple assets in order to do it. You might even have to give up a fourth, like this year's fourth, plus a future pick of some kind. If you're really, really wanting to get a second, third round pick or something and just have 2 picks on day 2, then that's something you might have to do. You might have to give up something on day 3 in order to move up. And then again, you're going to give up a future pick at the same time. And I'm trying to think of it, like, when it comes to quarterback, I think they're going to entertain quarterback. But again, I think that the way they're going to look at quarterback in this draft is going to be the same way that we've been saying all along. It's going to be more like, let's find a guy who might be able to come in and develop into something, kind of like the way that they were going to do with Mason Rudolph. Now, again, at that time, you had Ben Roethlisberger, and the plan was for him to still be Ben Roethlisberger, and you don't have that right now. But this is also isn't the quarterback class to take somebody to, maybe that guy can develop into a franchise quarterback. Maybe whoever they take can develop into a career backup or something along those lines, that you don't ever have to worry about a backup quarterback once you get your franchise quarterback, because you drafted that one in 2025. Something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. Everybody needs to get Sanders out of this equation here. They're not taking Shedeur Sanders. I really believe that.
I don't think really he's going to be there whenever they pick again.
And then there's that. And then because somebody's gonna go for that. Who's asking what it is I'm drinking? How can you not know what a jug of Turner's looks like? By the way, they're not a sponsor. I get asked about that all the time. Jacob says he loves the members only coverage. This is fun. Actually, the other cool thing about this show is I don't have to hawk the membership because you guys already have one. You know, I don't have DKPS.net/join. We're going to take a couple more because both of us are in for a really long night here. And then we get going again tomorrow. I believe I had some starred over here. I want to make sure that I get to. BJ asks, how can the Steelers move up or get an additional in the third? Let's try to get quantitative here, which we haven't done yet, Chris. What's it take? What's it take to get that pick?
Like I said, well, again, second round, I'm just going to rule out second round. I don't think I really don't think it's going to happen.
Look at what the Browns got, by the way.
Yeah.
The Browns for the Jacksonville to move up a couple of spots. Wow.
Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and say if you're gonna get a second, third round pick, which is much more feasible, I think you're gonna have to give up this year's fourth plus a future, maybe the third round your third round pick in 2026. And you can do that knowing that you're going to get a compensatory third round pick for Dan Moore next year. And you might even get more compensatory third-round picks if Russell Wilson and Justin Fields end up playing enough snaps, earning enough money, so on and so forth. Either way, those guys are going to get you compensatory picks, possibly fourth-rounders. But either way, you can trade your future original third knowing you're going to be getting a third just because of Dan Moore leaving for what he did. So you can do that. So I'll say this year's fourth and next year's third to get another third-round pick.
Oh boy. And like you said, that's not going to happen. But on that note, we end with the easiest question we'll get for days. It comes from Yinzer, who says, so what's better, a second round pick tomorrow or DK Metcalf?
That is an easy one.
I love it. Way to put things into perspective, my man, heading into day 2. I want to thank the barber. I want to thank the butthole. I want to thank the butthole again. I want to thank David Kranak. Hey, we can do this.
Yeah.
Barber comes in under an alias. We're on to you, Barber. John comes in with a couple of bucks. More Barber, and appreciate you guys. The historic first ever members only live shot on the DK Pittsburgh Sports YouTube channel is now officially complete. Thanks so much for being with us, guys. Don't forget, all our regular stuff is still going on tomorrow. Okay, daily shot, double shot, everything else. All right, not double. Yeah, Friday. It's Friday. Double shot. We have a double shot. All right, and then we're doing another one of these tomorrow night. Okay, another one of these tomorrow night, but just for you guys. All right, bye-bye.